Hey guys, Verbal Engine 95, recording live from your local county prison cell, and this is another death battle analysis that I wanted to get to because there is a decent chance that it will be happening this season, and you might argue that that's a reason not to do this, so that I won't have to just do it again, but it's a chance for me to be like, hey, I called it, and can't pass that up. So this fight is going to... So the fight I had in mind... and by the way, I'm only doing this with certain fights because I was already planning on doing it anyway. And to some extent, and then, it got... it became possible, so I pushed it up. This is Ryuko Matoi from Kill la Kill and Crona Gorgon from Soul Eater. Quick little disclaimer I want to make is that for those of you who have watched anime in the last 10 years and been on the internet, Crona actually has no confirmed gender in the source material. And, well, that in the Japanese they use a personal pronoun that is gender neutral that doesn't have a translation in English. So I'm going to follow the route that Funimation did, which is something that I don't feel quite too comfortable saying in the modern day. And I'm going to just identify Crona as a guy. If you think Crona's a girl, I'm not going to take that away from you, but this is just much easier for me. I don't script these, and I hate doing multiple takes, and I don't trust myself throughout the span of a 15-minute video to not, give someone a gender when they're not supposed to have one. So I'm just gonna call Crona a guy for this video because, well, Funimation did it, so I think I get a pass. Also, I want to say that before this fight, I was gonna do Ragyo versus Medusa, but A, there's, that's just nitpicking at that point between which one is right to do, and B, Ryuko's the main character, and Crona is a main character, so why would I do Ragyo? I don't know why I thought of that. So yeah, let's start with Ryuko. So, in the world of Kill la Kill, there is a species of alien known as the life fibers, and their job, generally, is to infect a planet, infect the dominant species, and then just kind of take over by spreading themselves throughout that dominant species, and then absorb and destroy the planet and move on. So, in the early days of man, they attached themselves to humans, sped up the evolutionary process, and through their influence, man invented clothing. Thus, life fibers take the form of clothing. Ragyo Kiryuin was a scientist who wanted to unlock the power of the life fibers, and thus gave herself over to them willingly and started a clothing company to spread them across the world. One such experiment that she used to try to unlock the power of the life fibers was her own daughter, Ryuko, who was a successful, though they didn't realize at first, a successful human life fiber hybrid. Ryuko would later get access to a life fiber weapon, a symbiote weapon, that would take the shape of a school uniform by the name of Zenketsu. So with Zenketsu, he feeds off of Ryuko's blood, and with that, is able to transform her and give her all of this superhuman abilities. Standard super speed, super strength. In his case, he can actually create blades around his body. He can fly. He can allow Ryuko to fly, I should say. Ryuko herself, being a life fiber hybrid, actually has an incredibly accelerated healing factor because she can literally, as a life fiber based organism, though this doesn't come up until later, she can literally, her body will just stitch its own wounds back together. Though, because she was fighting other life fibers, she ended up having a weapon that would become the scissor blade. Now, the scissor blade is two halves of a pair of scissors, and it's made out of hardened life fiber meant to cut life fiber organisms. And by cutting them from both sides, you stop them from being able to regenerate. So she's been able to, at the peak of the show, she was able to, like, fly through space. She was able to cut apart, skyscrapers. She even survived being cut into, like, dozens of pieces and just stitching herself back together. One of her weaknesses, though, is, well, A, her temper, and B, how her emotions affect, the relationship with Zenketsu, because she's been known to get angry, like absurdly angry, and because of that, her blood would heat up, and Zenketsu would kind of grow out of control. So yeah, like, she is I don't want to say cosmic level, but she is she's, crazy Super Saiyan fucking like, flying through space, beating, cutting up, giant, celestial bodies kind of level. Then we move on to Crona, and I thought this was going to be a squash match, but I'd only seen, like, the first couple episodes of Soul Eater, so I had to look up shit, okay? Sorry, but I actually learned a lot about Crona and found out that he is like god level. So Crona was experimented on by Medusa Gorgon, the one of the most powerful witches in the Soul Eater world. And one of the experiments that she utilized was to melt down the demon sword Ragnarok and infuse it with Crona's blood. This allowed him to eventually be able to learn how to. It created a symbiotic relationship with the sword and its host, and now not only do they resonate as Meisters, more perfectly than like at a masterful level that usually takes years and years to achieve, but also it manipulated Crona's blood itself and turned it into what is known as the Black Blood. Now, the Black Blood is essentially Crona being able to manipulate his own blood, harden it, remove it from his body, shape it, do all these crazy things. He's been able to throw spheres of super dense black blood. He's been able to create spikes from his body, shoot out giant, spikes of it. Create kind of like, well, literally, I guess, spikes of that he can shoot out at people. Been able to do just a bunch of crazy stuff with it. And another inherent ability he has is the Madness, which, as the name would suggest, is capable of basically breaking down order. Chaos and order kind of have a, black and white relationship in this show, like they're physical manifestations. And it's able to, well, literally just drive you insane, which sounds like it could be good or bad, but considering that weapon meisters fight by utilizing, harmony and order and resonance with their, synchronization and all that with their weapons, it's actually very devastating against somebody like that. Then there's been multiple power-ups that Crona's been able to utilize. There's the Black Clown, there's Brew, all which essentially just take the abilities he already has and magnify them. Though in the case of Black Clown, it actually allows Ragnarok to be able to sprout an additional arm to kind of hold himself with, well, because Crona actually gains 2 more swords in the show. And the Brew just further magnifies all the rest, the black blood and everything, though he does gain an ability called Scream, which is just like a giant energy wave that gets shot out in the shape of like a big monster mouth. And again, there's just multiple versions of it that are just more powerful versions of it. Though there's one feat in particular that I'm going to get into in a tiny bit that I think kind of makes this fight worth having. Crona by himself is able to do, like, citywide busting attacks, like, create, with all these regular power-ups, being able to, create, like, giant spheres that were able to envelop and trap people in and everything, that were, like, the size of a city, essentially. But then he was able to absorb Ashura, who is, next to Death, the most powerful character in the Soul Eater universe. And again, after absorbing Ashura, gains god-level versions of his abilities. So whereas the Madness was able to target, like, a group of people, now, without even, like, implementing it, the Madness can infect, like, countries of people without Crona even, like, focusing it. Just by, like, existing, the Madness is able to infect, hundreds of people. Hundreds. Fucking millions of people, really. The Scream becomes astronomically more powerful. The ability to use, the Black Blood becomes astronomically more powerful. It's just god-level amplification of his already impressive powers. Though, because Ashura is a different character, a lot of people debate whether or not that would be okay, but it is Crona that, and he doesn't display that power afterwards. It's not like something he can go back to, so there might be some debate on whether Ashura would be okay to use. But yeah, oh, and one thing I forgot to mention is the Black Blood actually utilizes a poison that influences the user's emotions. So again, it's another weapon that is utilized against Meisters, because if your emotions are out of control, you won't be able to resonate with your weapon. So going into this fight, who do I think would win? There would have to be a lot of stats to stats, because, there is a lot of destructive power being thrown around here. I do think one advantage Crona has is Madness and the Poison Blood that is able to manipulate emotions, considering Ryuko, considering Zenketsu utilizes Ryuko's blood much in the same way that Crona, Ragnarok uses Crona's blood. I think that is actually a pretty good weapon to use, affecting your emotions and your ability to, resonate with because there is a symbiotic relationship going on between Ryuko and Zenketsu, much in the way that there is with a Meister and their weapon. Not exactly, but like I said, if Ryuko's emotions get out of control, Zenketsu she can lose control over Zenketsu. This fight actually has a lot of good parallels that I wasn't thinking of. They were both experimented on by their mothers. They both end up, having a symbiotic blood-based relationship, literally infused with their weapon. So yeah, I end up liking this fight a lot more than I thought I would. And the power is there. The power balance between the two is there. I don't know, considering Ryuko's ability, the scissor blade, it's good against everything else, but, like, it's specifically meant to cut life fibers. It's been shown to be able to cut through buildings and things, but, it is specifically tailored to that. So it's not going to be all of the feats from the show are going to be kind of subject, considering it's specifically strong against life fiber. You're going to have to take that down a bit. So I guess like a cutting through a skyscraper feat would be the best example. Crona being able to like trap and annihilate entire cities, though, especially in Ashita form, I think that topped with the advantage that Crona has over Ryuko being able to manipulate emotions, I think that probably gives him just the edge that he needs, I think. The power is there, but I think that advantage is probably the most significant thing. Being able to say, you don't, like, being able to make her less focused and everything when her emotions are already kind of a weakness. So, yeah, let's hope this one happens, because it's going to be actually a pretty cool death battle, I think. Anyway, for Valentia 95, see ya.